now find the remaining Hell Priests by activating your celestial locator. The second Hell Priest is located in the northern region of Earth. I will calibrate the portal now. The hub has several areas locked off due to power constraints. Once power has been restored, you will be able to access the entire ship. Rising, re-establishing power to core and supplementary systems.
This is set up properly. There we go. Ooh, what have we here? All kinds of stuff right here. What is this way? There's all kinds of stuff in this ship that I have no idea what it is. What do we got here? What is this? Are these different outfits? Upgrades and stuff, gotcha. Ooh, looks like I can go down there. Okay, this is really funny. The inside of this giant spaceship that I'm on has pools of water. It has walls that are made out of stone blocks. It has big stained glass windows and statues. This is probably the the least efficient spaceship in the universe. Got a couple big wolf statues. This is pretty good. What's up this way? What do we got? Ice bomb. 12 3. Gradually recharges.
The ice bomb modification to your equipment launcher has been completed. Once fired, the bomb will douse nearby enemies in freezing gases. You'll have to manually toggle the launcher to fire either ice bombs or frag grenades.
Well, let's see where I'm supposed to go. Let's see. Oh, it's back downstairs. Onward to the next level. Or maybe not? Where in the world am I? Oh, here we go. Oh wow, this ship is even larger than I thought it was. It's got wooden railings. It's got a gigantic mech down there. What do we got? Oh, okay. It's got an elevator with a stone floor. This is good. This is really good. wooden barrels. I mean, this is the most insane spaceship I've ever seen. Look, there's huge chunks of rock in there. There's some moss. I don't know how any of this stuff came to be, but it's pretty interesting. Oh man, look at this door. So this is one of the same doors that they had at an earlier point in the game. I am genuinely impressed with it because a lot of this stuff, like I said before, is modeled at final res, and a lot of the details you can see are actually modeled in very carefully. Like all these lines and striations here, they're all three-dimensional. You can actually see a little bit of silhouette breakup right there along that edge. It's kind of crazy that they actually put that much detail in. And then of course you have details like this panel right here, which are just decals. Absolutely nuts. What is this? Ripatorium. Okay. Let's see what this is about. Ooh. Okay. Right. Still have no idea what's going on, but... Ooh. Okay. There's an elevator and a stone shaft. Oh my god, look at all these bricks. Demon prison. Allows you to practice fighting demons without dying or permanently losing inventory, such as ammo and extra lives. New encounters unlock as you progress through campaign and discover new demons. Exit through the portal when finished. Okay. Oh my god. All this stuff is inside of a spaceship. I love it. It makes absolutely no sense, and it just doesn't have to. They've completely given up on things making sense, and they've just decided to do whatever they think is cool. Which, I mean, it's respectable. Why not? Okay. Yeah, I think it's hilarious that the inside of this spaceship has, you know, broken columns and growing ivy. And look, you can look outside and see stars. Alright, so how do I get to the portal again? Demon prison. Exit the prison. Okay. How do I exit the prison? Oh, there it is. Is this water or slime? It's water. Oh, look. Oh, that's nice. So when you walk through this water, it leaves ripples behind you. And if I'm not mistaken, there's actually some distortion there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's nice. So if you look carefully, you can see that there's what looks like 3D distortion. I can't quite tell. It definitely distorts textures, but it might also be three-dimensional. Let me see if... Yeah, it's pretty tough to tell if the ripples that follow you in this pool are three-dimensional or not, but they definitely have some parallax in there of some sort. So what I think they're probably doing is they're placing essentially a particle on top of this, the level of this water, and that particle draws in the normal channel and a couple of other channels and actually distorts the UVs of the scene in that area. Or at least that's what it looks like it might do. It's really tough to tell if it's actually 3D distortion or not, because they do a really good job of blending away the edges of the water. But it looks, unless I'm mistaken, it looks like where the transition is right here, it looks like it might actually distort it. But yeah, like I said, difficult to tell just because they're doing a lot of distortion of the screen. Yeah, it's even tough to tell where the water ends and other things begin. But yeah, looks like it must just be screen space distortion. Regardless, it's really cool. It's a really nice, effective effect. And the fact that they have this sort of depth-based green color in there makes it look really nice and murky. I really like this effect. You can see that they're using the depth map of the scene to tint whatever's under the surface of the water. Some really good environment art here. And they execute a lot of it in a really interesting way, too. You can see that there are lots of just tiling textures here. So like on these stairs, this crack that I'm looking at right here that's under the reticle, you can see that it goes across multiple stairs. And I think the this lichen or moss texture, it also just kind of tiles. So I think what they're doing is they're applying similar techniques that they use to hard surface models here on the rocks. So instead of modeling and then baking a bunch of unique details, they're instead just making a final model in low poly essentially, and then just applying a bunch of tiling textures across the entire thing, layered on top of each other. And they're doing a lot of vertex painting and such, so that it all kind of blends together. So you can actually see, like along this line right here, that's probably a series of polygon edges where there's probably some fairly narrow polygons right there, and the threshold for the transition between just plain rock and whatever has the lichen on it is pretty tight right there. It's interesting that they decided not to do a high poly and bake textures for things like these stone steps, because right next to it you can see some things like these models right here. These look like they actually have some baked in details, like these big round chunky details seem like they're probably baked from a high poly source, along with on here. Like you can see that these have some sharp chips along this edge, which is kind of difficult to get in a tiling texture because you don't know what the normals of the underlying mesh would be. So it looks like this is baked from a high poly source along with this one right here. But then right next to it you have these ones that are just medium poly. Let's see here. So got some comments in the chat. If you haven't, go out to the parapets on the other side of the main station. Even more ridiculous architecture. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be taking a lot more looks at the architecture of this station. Screen space would be a lot cheaper, right? So for the water, so depending upon what your rendering solution is like, it might be more efficient to do screen space rendering with distortion for the water, or it might be cheaper to actually displace it. It really depends on your graphics pipeline and what kind of tech you actually have for real-time water. In some engines, it's actually surprisingly cheap to render water that distorts in real time. The problem with doing that in real time is that it also has to take into effect like polygon normals when it's distorting what's underneath it, and that can be kind of difficult and expensive to render in real time because most displacement solutions don't actually perturb the normal of a surface. So by that what I mean is, if you have, say this is a polygon and this is the line of the normal coming out from it, the direction that this polygon is facing according to the light, if it's like this and you displace it, essentially what you're doing is you're just moving parts of it up or down, sort of like this. But this line, according to the lighting calculations, is always going to be the same. So no matter how it goes up or down, it's not changing that normal. To actually change that normal, you have to do some pretty complex and pretty expensive math, usually. So what that ends up meaning is that this normal isn't going to change regardless of how much the polygons underneath it go up or down with displacement. So it's tough to get the kind of distortion that they have here with actual displacement. But you know, some engines will do that in real time. And yeah, I think in this case, a screen space distortion effect would probably be cheaper than that, though I've worked with systems where it'll automatically calculate that stuff for you as long as the shader is set up the right way and you just have all the right boxes checked. Oh, this is nice. So they have some animated lights. Looks like a flipbook texture on a light that's right below that water, or maybe the surface of the water. That, or it could even just be a texture painted on in the with the vertex painting. And it looks like, yeah, there's a. It looks like maybe a 4 to 8 frame flipbook, and what it's doing is it's simulating reflections and refractions from the water that are getting reflected back up onto the rocks around. It's a really fun effect to play with in shaders. I really love doing that. And now that I think about it, given that we're seeing this only in that area over there and only on certain surfaces, I think it might actually not be a light that we're seeing. I think it's probably part of the texture. So what they probably have is the multi-layered blending between, say, rock and lichen and other stuff, and then on top of all of that, they have something that might be like an additive texture or something that makes it glow slightly according to whatever is in that flipbook. So it's an actual animated texture on top of everything else. Part of the reason that I think it is that is because on this big lichen or moss clump, we don't see any of this animation. So I think it's probably just a shared shader between these different chunks. We also don't see it on these bones. So yeah, I think it's probably just painted on here. Still, it's a really nice effect. It looks really good. I like it a lot. What do we got here? More blood decals. Yeah, they use some really interesting environment modeling techniques here. Like this mesh going along here also seems like it's probably got a combination of tiling and baked information, because the along the edge here, it also has some really big, chunky chips and cracks and stuff that are kind of difficult to get into tiling textures. Lots of really cool, interesting techniques just all around here. Now, I do think it's hilarious, once again, that this spaceship has things like lichens, and look, there's some bones in the wall over here. But the thing I think is funniest is that you have these these stalagmites growing up from the ground everywhere. And there aren't any, or there are hardly any stalactites coming down from the ceiling, which would imply, you know, where the water was dripping from to make these. They just placed them here because they look cool. And I mean, you know, props to them. They just decided they weren't gonna give a crap, and they made something that looked neat, and it works. I mean, it's cool. I do kind of wish that these were a little higher res, but you know what you're gonna do. It's not something that people are supposed to stare at. This is mostly me being obsessive. Anyway, let's go back through that portal and take a look at what's next. Oop. Oop. Oh, I'm bad at this. Okay. Ooh, what do we got here? Is it a nice banner? Moving a little bit. Wonder what happens if I shoot it. Absolutely nothing. Can I bump into it? Nope. So it looks like this is using just some simple vertex displacement to make it wave a little bit. It's probably just got a really simple noisy texture scrolling over it in the vertex channel, or the displacement channel. But it's very effective. It looks nice. Alright, let's see. What is my next objective here? I have no idea what I'm doing. Let's go back up to the bridge, I guess. Let's see, I see an objective marker on my HUD up there at the top. What do we got here? Oh, it's down there. Okay, who are you? You have a coin for me? Praetor suit points. Spend points to purchase Perks. Enhance your abilities or unlock new ability. Good golly. Oh, they're still tutorializing this late in the game. Suit tab of the dossier. Here you can upgrade abilities and unlock new abilities. Good lord. Fundamentals. Faster dasher. Ice bomb. Frag grenade. Environment. Thicker skin. Immune to damage from barrel explosions. I like that. Rad suit takes less damage from toxic sludge and toxic water. Regenerating barrels. Explosive pinatas. Exploration reveals the position of all progression items on the auto map. Larger auto map reveal radius. Reveals all progression items. Reveals the auto map station location on the auto map. Dash refilled on glory kills. Dash refills more quickly. Faster weapon switch and mod swap. Faster ledge grab and monkey bars. Everything's so fast in this. I don't know if I actually want to go faster. Environment. Barrels will leave behind some ammo when destroyed. Let's do that one because I'm really bad at this game. Press and hold to purchase it. I guess I'll do. I'm incredibly bad at this, so I'll just do whatever. There we go. Yay. I bought a thing. Let's go back to looking at graphics and stuff. Okay. What's my next objective? Let's go back. Fight some demons. Look at some environments. Talk about some art. Let's see here. Where is it upward? It says I'm getting closer. Here we go. Cool. Look at those particles. Oh, it's so nice. Oh. Hey, folks. We're just playing through some Doom Eternal and looking at some graphics and stuff. Oh my god, it loaded so quickly. Oh. Ooh, we got some snow now. Snow shaders are always a lot of fun depending upon how they're implemented, because there's so many different ways that you can represent snow, and there's so many different types of snow too. You can have wet snow, you can have more crystallized snow, you can have really flaky snow or really clumpy snow. Yeah, it looks like they're going for a fairly simple approach to a lot of the snow shaders here. They actually look fairly close to a lot of what they do with the sand and dirt. I think they're going for more of like an effect of snow rather than something that's necessarily physically plausible. One thing I really like about snow shaders, oh my goodness, so many pop-ups. Mission challenges, oh I don't care, I just want to look at pretty pictures. What do we got? Let's see here. Okay, so it looks like there's a wall down there that I can grab onto. So yeah, one of the things I really like about snow is that there are so many different ways to represent it, and depending upon, for example, how thick it is, you know, how large of a drift of snow it is, or how thin a sheet of it is, like right here, you can represent it and break it up in so many different really cool ways. There's also a lot of really cool ways that you can represent, like transitions from light to dark. You know, as air passes through, as light passes through snow, because it's made of water, it takes on a slight bluish tinge. It's all very interesting. Okay, let's see if I can actually hit this wall, since I'm really bad at this. Hey, I did it. Okay. Cool. Oh, here we go. What do we got here? Ooh, nice glaciers and stuff. That's a really cool vista right there. But what else can we see over here? Oh, this is really nice. Yeah, they got some really great depth in this scene. It looks like, what are they doing over here? Oh yeah, they're prepping for a big reveal now. You can see the ends of some sort of big ship over there. This is cool. Let's see, can I get over there? I think I can jump over there. Ooh, aha. So I want to go that way. Oh yeah, wow, look at that. That's really nice. Oh, you can actually see a little bit of tiling in the water texture out there. You can see that it repeats what looks like, I don't know, maybe every 10 meters or so. You know, it's far enough away that usually nobody's going to notice. They've also got some really cool stuff going on under the water over there. You can see that there are some really big rib cages that are kind of hidden. That's a nice touch. It's something they didn't need to do at all, but it looks really good. Okay, so I'm assuming that if I touch the red bits on that climbing wall over there, I'm gonna die, which is always great. Yep. They're, hurty, shocky thingies. Ah, yeah, see, this is really cool. Look at the depth in those distant clouds over there. You can actually see that they're very slowly scrolling across. I mean, I'm not sure how exactly they're doing it, but there are a few ways that you could accomplish it. You could do it with large-scale particles. You could do it as like just a shader that has flow maps, kind of like they do with the lava. There's a lot of different ways that you can accomplish something like that. Let's see here. Impressive that it's forward rendered. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's pretty impressive that they managed to accomplish everything they did here in forward rendering as opposed to deferred. So for those of you who don't know, forward rendering versus deferred rendering basically means that forward rendered, everything renders all at once as one contiguous frame. There's you're not compositing stuff together like you would in Photoshop every frame. Whereas forward or deferred rendering means that you render individual parts of a frame in different pieces. They are doing forward rendering, but they're also doing some compositing of other effects and stuff. Just doing it in a slightly different fashion. So there are some deferred-like things going on here, absolutely. But yeah, it is impressive that they managed to do forward rendering with everything. I'm genuinely impressed with the work they've done. Oh, what a little cutie. All those little toys are really neat. Let's see, can I jump back over there? Hey, nice. Cool. What do we got? Bye. Hey, don't shoot me. That's not very friendly. Ooh. Uh-oh. Hey, buds.
The Hell Priest is somewhere in this facility. I cannot pinpoint his exact location at this time.
What do we have over here? What do we got? Some secrets over here? Something. Okay, there's a jump pad. What is that? Oh god, there's all kinds of things. There's something on the end of this. Oh, what? Oh, it's a dope fish. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so the dope fish, for those of you who haven't played a lot of old games, is it's a monster from Commander Keen. I believe that's the first place that it showed up. Commander Keen was one of id Software's earliest games, and it was a side-scroller where you played the kid named Commander Keen, who was on some sort of adventure in his spaceship, and you went through various levels and such, and the dope fish was something that you would encounter underwater, and it was almost impossible to beat in most circumstances, and it's appeared in, I believe, every single id Software game ever since, and this was 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago that game came out. It certainly came out in the early 90s, if not the late 80s. Cultist key. I love that they just put cultist key required right there. That's good. Once again, they don't even care that it's very gamey. They're just doing they're just putting the necessary information and not even caring about it being something that you are supposed to believe is this, you know, this deep world or anything. It's just what would be cool. Ooh.
Welcome, Slayer. Is my time at an end? Let's see if you're strong enough to survive this cursed citadel.
Cursed citadel. Okay. Okay. Yeah, well, neat. Oh, hi. Hey, buddies. Ooh. Oh, they have flamethrowers. Oh, hey.
The Slayer has arrived. All mortally challenged personnel, please be advised.
Mortally challenged personnel. Okay, so this is a fairly classic-looking id Software setup for a lot of this level. It's got a lot of hard surfaces, a lot of bright colors right next to fairly dull finishes and such. This is what I expect when I think of a game from id Software. It's got basically high tech next to, you know, hell priests and such, which I really appreciate. But let's take a look at how some of this stuff was put together. So this is interesting. In most of these environments, like you see right here, you have a lot of tiling textures, decals, and mid-poly modeling. So a lot of this stuff, a lot of these big, round, chunky bevels that you see are all modeled in, and they're modeled at the final resolution that they're going to be put into the game. And then they just apply a bunch of tiling textures to them. You can see in cases like right over here on this edge, the texture just comes along here continuously, and it's if you were to look at the UV maps for this would just be a rectangle stretched across the UVs. However, if you come over here and look at these big crates right here, they have something very different going on. So if you look very closely, you can see that along these edges there's some pixelation, which means that this edge right here, it wasn't actually done in the same way as other environment pieces. So what this will tell you is that this is actually a texture that was baked from a high poly mesh. You can actually see some baking errors right here at the base of some of these rivets. You can see that there's a little bit of weird extra texture. I think it might be because those rivets are floating. So what they did is they projected texture from the high poly onto the low poly, and as they were baking it, they accidentally caught some stuff that they weren't supposed to, or in a way that they were supposed to, in the low poly, and that, with the combination of those little rivets right there, sort of floating off the surface, meant that there were some texturing errors. So that, combined with how this is pixelated, tells you that this was made as a standalone object, baked and textured, and then it as an entire prop was placed here in the level. It's very interesting that these were modeled in a very different fashion than the rest of the environment. And I have to think that the reason they did it this way, well, there are a couple of reasons they could have done it. One is that it could be this prop is pretty old in terms of how they were working in development. You know, it could be that this prop was constructed early on as they were developing things and they hadn't fully landed on this sort of medium poly modeling style, or it could be for optimization. So it's really easy to take a bunch of details from a prop like that and just tear them out if it's constructed in a certain way. So for example, if you have lines like this that are just baked into the texture, that's not something where you need to optimize the polygons in that area. You can just simply say, okay, it's a texture, I don't need to worry about it. I can just optimize like the big bevels on the corners. I can collapse those into fewer polygons and points. Whereas if you have cuts in the actual geometry along a place like this, that's something where a level of detail solution needs to determine whether you're keeping that split. You need to determine whether or not that split actually has two different materials on it. And if it has two different materials on it, as you get farther away and the level of detail models start fading in, you can actually start to see them pop in because it doesn't really know what to do with the corners, especially since they're probably using an automated level of detail solution like Simplygon. So yeah, interesting stuff. It's interesting seeing sort of unique, bespoke models like this right next to ones where they've just kind of gone ham with modeling them out at final resolution. There's somewhere on the id servers a high poly model of this crate. I wonder how much mirroring they have on this, now that I think about it. Okay, so actually, look, if you look right here and right here, there's a couple little spots, which, if you move over here, you can see are exactly the same. So what that tells me is that certain parts of this are mirrored, so just duplicated into different spots, whereas others are modeled and textured uniquely. So, for example, this big plate right here has a pretty unique texture across the whole thing, which is different from this texture. So that's its own part. It's not mirrored in like 4 different directions or anything, whereas all of these round cylindrical thingies are basically just copied and pasted. But then if you look at the red sort of glowy bits, you can see that inside they have different patterns. Here's something cool. So if you look at the floor right here, you can see that it's got this this tiling normal map of these like bars and circles. And if you walk over here, it just completely fades away into a puddle. That's another example of vertex painting and it blending between 2 different materials. These might actually have the same color map on them, but a different normal map, so that it can look like this is filled with melting snow. Anyway, cool. Lots of fun little bits of info that I like to pick out here. Oh, this is neat too. So something they're doing right here. Let's see if this is. Oh, so we can actually see down into another part of the environment below us right here. What we're seeing down there is not the same as what we see up here. So they've got some interesting transparency stuff going on here. Adds a lot of really nice depth. Okay, so where am I supposed to go? Let's continue. Nope, not that way. Is it up here? Aha! There we go. Oh boy, there's a mancubus. Okie dokie. Blood. Okay. And the mancubus is dead. Oh boy. Oh, that mancubus was dead, but not this one. Oof. Ooh. That's gnarly. Okay. Here we go. Let's just get up there. What do we have here? Hey, buddy. Thanks, and I have a coin. Cool. Oh. Nothing here? Okay, nothing. That's unpleasant. Okay. Ah, I see. Oh, he's a big boy. See, that's one of those cases where I really wish that more of these blurry kills had longer animations with more finesse to them. Because a lot of them happen so quickly that you kind of understand what's happening, but it doesn't give you the sort of really quick narrative that I wish you had. So for example, when he grabs that skull, it just sort of kind of explodes. You can see that his hands move off to the side. I really wish that it had more of a kunk kunk. This is nice. You can. This is a really nice example of how you can have a sense of space, even though a lot of these levels seem kind of disconnected. There's small little arenas that are kind of joined together by short pathways, showing the this large lake that we saw before and this big gun or space station or whatever it is off in the distance. It is a really nice way of sort of orienting the player. That a lot of games actually do kind of badly. They're getting better about it, but I've noticed that a lot of developers don't put so much emphasis on that type of orientation of the player in space. So that's a nice touch. It's not really necessary. It's there, and it looks great though. So here's an interesting example of them using that sort of medium poly technique next to something that's actually fairly low tech. So right here we have a bunch of modeled in bevels and chunky shapes, but then right next to it we have this grating, which actually is, it's got a couple layers there, but if you look closely you can actually see from a distance that the texture for it sort of fades off and isn't as detailed, and you start to realize that it's actually just got some alpha cut out on it. So it's actually just a flat plane with some textures. You can actually see a couple of very slight errors, like right here in the middle of the reticle. There's a sort of stair step. It looks like that's an area where along here they might have made this in Substance Designer or something, and it lost a little bit of precision in the height map as they were extracting alpha information for it. Yeah, you can see right there, that's a little stair step. And I think it's interesting that they combined just a flat textured plane with all of this much more high detail stuff. Which is not to say that they don't do other things similar like that. They have, right here, they actually have several decals. Like this stuff right here, that's just all decals. Yeah, good confluence of different levels of detail and different modeling and texturing techniques. This is pretty impressive right here because they actually have rounded corners on, or at least beveled corners, on all the different corners of this yellow shape. And these sort of spikes right here have probably like 16 sides, it looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, yeah, so 16 sides for each of these little spikes that, in theory, nobody should really be looking very closely at, but I'm a huge nerd, so yeah. So what do we got right here? Am I going to explode if I touch this? No, nice, nice. So this is cool. This is, this looks like more medium poly work combined with some unique texturing, and then it's got this cool red light attached to it. I love the way that it illuminates the environment around it. Makes it really feel like it's actually glowing and not just something with a red texture on it. That's cool. Alright, what next? What do we got? I think I'm supposed to go over here. I don't know how to get in there. Looks like I can't jump, so let's go see what's this way. Okay. Gotta say, these hand animations are really a little bit bizarre to me. They, it looks like they're essentially just shifting the entire hand. They're not really trying to specifically grab onto the surface, it's just like moving it almost programmatically. I wonder what technique they used to actually animate that. It's very, yeah, it's surprisingly jittery. Though, as you're moving up and down, well, actually, yeah, there's a lot of jitter moving both up and down and left to right. I'm curious what solution they ended up using for that, because it seems a little more jittery than I would expect for something in a game like this. Ooh. Oh, I overshot. Here we go. Oh, and here's something really nice. So there's a lot of repetition of props, lots of copy and paste, lots of, you know, radial symmetry and stuff like that. You can actually see it right here. There's lots of just copy and paste in this area, which is not bad. It works very well, and it sort of gives a consistent appearance. But something else that they don't put a lot of emphasis on, but is certainly there, is things like this, where they have the exact same thing mirrored side to side, so over there, and this is actually a doorway that we've seen before several times, but they actually broke it off right here. Now, I don't know if this specific prop was made for this specific area, or if they use a broken version of this doorway in other places. But this is one of the really great advantages of using that sort of medium poly modeling technique, is you can do stuff like this and get it implemented very quickly. You don't have to worry about breaking your baked textures or something like that, because you're always using almost exclusively tiling textures. So it's very, very quick to produce things like that. You basically just take say a noisy sphere or something that just has a bunch of crunchy surface detail, and you boolean it out, and then you just duplicate off a copy and put it in the engine with a new name, and suddenly it's completely usable. It speeds production up by leaps and bounds. Okay. Hey, got some armor. Okay, now what? Here we go. Okay. So that's gonna close. Oh, found the ground again. Here we go. Oh. Oh, interesting. Wonder. Nice. Here we go. Oh, did it again. Oh, I'm really bad at this. But hey, you didn't sign up to watch me play this expertly. This is on the easiest difficulty setting. Okay, let's try this again. So I want to go this way. Yay, there we go. Alright. Ooh, weapon. Ooh, is that a rocket launcher? Oh, hell yeah. Here we go. Oh, man, so this is a really nice detail. If you look at those sort of bands on the rocket launcher, the upper parts actually have skulls modeled in. Once again, that's a completely unnecessary detail that you don't need, but they just put it there to look awesome, which I really appreciate. It's not really my style of, doing work like this, but it is something that I greatly appreciate when people do it right. Alright, what do we got here? Oh my goodness. Guys, they are not screwing around. Ooh. Oh boy. This is another example of an area that feels very much like a multiplayer arena. There's lots of ups and downs, lots of line of sight blockers, a ton of verticality in that they have things like these monkey bars, they have different levels like up here, they have sort of different tiers. In fact, the entire this entire area sort of has it's organized around 3 different tiers of play, or 3 different vertical tiers. There's this one, the highest one, which I'm on right now, and this right here is about at the same level. Then there's this one right here, which is sort of the medium level. It continues over here. It's sort of over here as well. This one's a little bit higher. And then you have this pit right here, which is sort of the most dangerous place to be in the arena, but it's also the area where you have the most visibility of most of your targets. The interesting thing, I think, is that from this, from the pit in the middle of this arena, you have fairly quick access to the other upper levels, but you also have line of sight blockers that keep you from seeing areas like this doorway. So if this was a multiplayer arena, this doorway would probably be where someone with like a grenade launcher or a sniper rifle or something might hide. And then of course there's this launcher over here, which is going to be used a lot to get to this big health pack. But of course this big health pack is also in one of the most exposed areas of the level. So you are largely visible from important areas like over here, down here, this tier, this area over here. So, and you're also right next to this cliff. So all this stuff makes it feel like whoever was designing this was thinking, okay, I want there to be, you know, hiding places for these types of players and these types of people using these types of enemies. I want there to be danger right next to safety. So danger would be in getting pushed off this cliff and, you know, falling to your death right next to this thing, which is a very, very tempting target, especially in a multiplayer sense. If you are playing a multiplayer game, you need to know where all the health pickups are, otherwise you're going to die quickly. And if you come over here, you have a really high chance of being targeted by, for example, a sniper, someone with a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher. If someone managed to get up there onto this platform, they would have the high ground, but they'd also be pretty exposed to someone with, for example, a grenade launcher. But they would also, but you would also be exposed to them, targeting you in this really vulnerable spot. So it's a very interesting arena. I find it super fascinating that they intentionally chose to do this type of gameplay design. Oh, here's that same archway again. So yeah, they copied and pasted it over here. It doesn't really serve a purpose. It's just there to look nice and sort of frame what's in the background. Speaking of what's in the background, you can see more of the big ribs and stuff. They're attached to a head back there. Now here's something else that's interesting about this water, actually. So they intentionally placed some lights down there so that you could see that big skeleton, but that's not what I'm looking at. Actually what I'm looking at is, if you look at the top of the screen, and as it fades down on the water, as I start seeing more and more of the environment up there, it sort of fades in along the top of the water in this gradient. So what that tells me is that those reflections are actually all screen space reflections. Now they have some other reflections built in. You can see a little bit of like sky reflection in there where it's a little bit light, and sort of along that medium distance area there's a band of breakup. But if, for example, if I look over there in the corner where there's that iceberg or that cliff going up, you can see the reflections start to fade away. It's all screen space stuff. So I'm curious, if I turn all of the graphic settings down here, what is that water going to look like? Are they going to replace it with a cube map of some sort? Oh. No, they don't even replace it with a baked cube map. They just have what's on screen. So yeah, it's interesting that they have a water shader like that uses so much screen space reflection. I'm a little bit surprised because that's a really big visual difference, and that's actually something that they could fairly easily fake. So I'm curious as to why they decided not to. It might be just it might be a technical constraint. It could just be, hey, if we don't have to do it, we don't want to do it, why should we do it? Very interesting stuff. So what else do we have here? We've got we've got a wall up there that we can access, where we can climb up. So this is another area where it feels a lot like a multiplayer arena. If you go up there, how do we climb up there? There's got to be, maybe I can climb up this way, and then there we go. So that's how you get up there. You jump onto that wall, jump up here, and this is the area you come to if you're in a multiplayer arena, where you jump up onto here. Ooh, what's that? That's cool. Secret found. I don't know what it is, but it looks cool. But this is the place where you'd come if you wanted to be a sniper and camp for a little while. The problem is that somebody could very easily lob a grenade up here, and then you'd be kind of SOL. But hey, very cool stuff. And yeah, once again, this all feels like they were sort of building out these interesting multiplayer arenas, and then they populated them with enemies in an interesting way. It's very cool. It's a very unique design, too. What do we got here? Choose a rune. Gain a speed boost after performing a glory kill. Perform glory kills faster. Greatly increase movement control while in the air. Increase how long enemies remain in stagger state. Oh, I like that idea. Sorry, I had to had to scratch my nose. Alright, let's see what we got going on here. Okay. Oh, so this is a switch that I need to punch, looks like. So can I punch it this way? Nope. How about this way? Ah. So this is interesting. I'm not sure exactly what that... Huh. Oh, you know what? Let's see. Is this for... Nope. Am I supposed to... I'm supposed to go up there, aren't I? Or... I don't know where I'm supposed to... Is that... Does that open? I'm incredibly bad at video games, so I apologize for this. I'm sure it's incredibly frustrating for a lot of people. Yep, so it looks like there's a door up there that opens up, and I need to get up there. So let's try this. Nope. Good God. No, actually. No visible door. This is surprisingly a little bit confusing. What do we got? There's that. That comes down. Some chunky sounds. Yeah, there's no visible door. Curiouser and curiouser. Let me double check my time here. Oop, I need to actually get going. That's a good time to cut things off anyway. Thanks for joining me here. I apologize for not being super great at video games. I spend most of my time working on them as opposed to playing them. So, you know, for those of you who are competitive players, I truly am sorry and apologize. But I hope this has been informative. I'm going to keep doing these sort of art and tech dissection streams. I'm going to try to do it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so feel free to drop by whenever you like, as long as I'm on there. And I'll see you guys later. My next stream is going to be on Monday, noon Pacific Standard Time, and I'll be playing more Doom Eternal. I'll probably be a little bit farther along than I am right now, but I don't think you're really here to see me play the game so much as you are to see me break things down, so hopefully that's not a problem. Anyway, have a good day, have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye.